What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be talking about the 8th house in astrology, what it's like to have certain planets there, how you can better understand your sexuality or sexual karma, and kind of tie it into today's energy, transits, and all of that. So, let's get into it. Now, I got to start with this. If you have not read or checked out my book, Astrology of the Matrix, you definitely should do that if you want to learn more about this particular topic. What I do within the book is I'm talking about a lot of stuff. I'm talking about how to better understand karma, and then eventually we get to astrology. When you get to the astrology, with the understanding of what you learn, certain things should make sense. So what I'm going to do here in this video is expound a little bit on the 8th house, right? So the 8th house, originally ruled by Scorpio, is known as the house of human sexuality, secrets, transformation. And as with all these signs and houses, they correspond to many different layers of human beings, as well as society, psychological functions, all of that. So physically, it's the sexual organs, okay? Psychologically, it's desire. Scorpio, Pluto, all of these correlate 8th house, correlating to particular psychological aspects of the soul. Also, where there's psychic influence, there's energetic exchange, right? And this can come in many different ways. Physically, we think of it as sex, but if we dress it up under another guise, energy at this level is exchanged through intimacy, okay? And in the 8th house, we are evolving to the point where we're well past self-development. We have a strong, healthy understanding of who we are on our own. And then in Libra, in the 7th house, we meet others. We fall in love and we seek marriage. Then we get to the 8th house. And now this is you and that other. You and others, and how you deal with others on a deeper level. Joint finances, sharing of the home life. And at a deeper level, y'all, the sharing of your sexual psyche, or the development further of that. So I was gonna veer off and say this, but I will say this. Out here having certain wisdom, sometimes I don't always enforce what I know, even if I very much so know it's more true than opinion. But I think a universal fact is that you can't avoid being influenced, right? The nature of life is to find yourself, and part of finding yourself is finding it through others. And just in this point that I'm speaking about, someone just really tell me that they didn't believe that the person you marry in life could have such a significant effect upon one's evolution and destiny. And it's true. But understand that someone who's unwilling to believe a simple truth like that is like someone who doesn't necessarily want to believe all the way in astrology, because they think it's out of my control. And if it's out of my control, I don't like it. Well, certain things in life are out of your control. Like who you fall in love with, right? Well, it's an unconscious factor too. So think about all these things when it comes to 8th house. Okay, how we're merging. And I want you guys to know that merging matters. We're all getting older out here. And a lot of my work in advising people spiritually with these relationships is for getting some to understand that you've outgrown that person. And unless they willingly catch up to where you are spiritually, not in the sense of doing what you do, but that vibration, it won't work, and because you need a greater influence. So it's rather cutthroat at, you know, certain levels of spirituality. But going back to the eighth house, when it comes into the evolutionary experience, so you, the person out there with planets in the eighth house, I want you to understand this. The whole chart is comprised of karma. The whole chart. And as we just discussed in the book, we're not dealing with the right or wrong thing. It just works in a particular way. So when you have planets coming to the eighth house, speaking particularly about eighth house things, intimacy, sexuality, transformation, you have a karma here in which you need to initiate this. You need to develop this area. And for most suns in the eighth house, most suns in the eighth house, as well as Mars sometime, even though it's a natural position, this is why you want to see the whole chart. A lot of development in those areas are needed. Development in being, not having more sex. No, the things that happen after that, the emotional intimacy, right? The feelings on an emotional level that intensify, right? So let's say we have like an Aquarius sun here, or some type of eighth house person with Aquarius placements. This is a person that walks around fighting, desiring things, but fighting the desire to fall or the feelings that come with those experiences. So just like other realms of life, you're learning here. You're learning something, okay? So you're learning how to possibly be more intimate, which leads to being a better partner. And, you know, just from what I've seen, a lot of eighth house placements follow a strong Pluto somewhere. So the Pluto might be in the 7th, the Pluto might be in the 5th, the Pluto might be in the 1st, and, you know, it'll connect back to that 8th house, in which, you know, your development in these areas puts you in greater power with that Pluto where it is elsewhere. So in the next vein, the planets there. Now this is the moon, the Venus, okay, the Plutos, Neptune, Neptune, right? These eighth houses they're more comfortable here, not even more comfortable. They have the habitual karma to an extent of, like, you love sex. You love eighth house things. You love the underworld. You love sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You're with the shits, right? There's a comfortability there. And as we're going to go, like I said, I teach these things, so there's more I can say. But, you know, we're in the realm of the underworld. And when you have certain energies here, and we can add some of the asteroids here as well, they create certain dynamics, or there is, in a sense, you could say on an astral level, certain hijackings that can occur. Now, I'm going to go into this a little bit. But for you eighth house people, you think about your early sexual experiences, not just in the manner of you doing something, but what was around you. What was around you? What did you see? Man, you know, I'm a kid of the 90s, so we remember that channel, the the channel you couldn't really see it all the way, but it was like, oh, right? Or as we got older, the softcore shit, right? Which just eventually evolves into the world we live in now. But what I'm saying is, there are particular children, there are particular energies in which, you know, I'll advise a parent like, hey, be mindful of what this kid sees, because when certain kids get exposed to certain things, it sticks there. It sticks. And going to the psyche aspect of the 8th house, your inner psychology, in a sense, is altered. And on a more, like I said, astral level, shit can happen. You can get hijacked. Now, this can happen at any time in life. And as you get older, you willingly kind of do these things by the choices that you make, the people that you're involved with. So it gets me to the meat of this video with the 8th house. It's a psychic house. It's the house of the occult. So sex should be intentional. And where I want to, intentional in the sense of if it's for release, there's a root of the release. Why? Right? And but there should be, behind the intent, there should be a energy that allows us to step into power rather than guilt or shame. Now, this part is where you, on the journey as a person developing your spirituality, it's like once you learn things, you're learning about yourself, you're learning about what gets you off, you're learning about what you don't like, all of these things. And just to simplify it, the more you can honor your desires in a healthy manner, the more power you're willed in this area. But at the same time, going back to my other point, the outside influence and the other exchanges that you're partaking in. So I'll put it like this. This is where the influence part comes in. If you're exchanging with someone who is out of alignment intent-wise, so you're exchanging with full-on love, and they're exchanging with full-on lust, someone's getting drained here. And it's not really the lust one, because there's no expectations, there's no investment. So there's a responsibility in the 8th house about your well-being. To expand on that idea about sexual well-being, I wanted to talk about masturbation, which can be something of the 8th house. And it can also be a 12th house thing too, because it's more of an isolated thing and the thing of self. But especially now, we live in a time period where there's so much talk and understanding and experience within this particular realm. And one of the truths of the matter is that this is more like of a Saturn influence. Because remember, Saturn is really that force. It's the force of reality, of law, of rules, kind of this is right, this is wrong, that really brings in this energy. Okay? But one thing that you'll find, or is just a truth, is that although there's nothing wrong with masturbation, it is fine. There's no right or wrong. There is a psychological deficiency that develops, or there are certain limitations that will present themselves from excessive use or non-balanced use of that particular thing. And then even look at it like we all need balance for overall well-being or harmony. That's further evidenced by Saturn exalted in Libra. So the more disciplined you can become in your pursuit of balance, you don't want to be too rigid. No, you don't want to be too much of anything. You want to be nice and balanced, and that's when you're able to tap into Venus and feel the love, right? So here within, and these are just different paths one can explore. So someone with, let's say, a Jupiter Saturn conjunction in the 8th house may not struggle with that at all. They may naturally observe a pattern of where their needs are their needs. But my understanding of how I channel this information comes from time traveling per se. Like, I go through the understanding of human development, and we have to acknowledge that someone in the past, your human sexuality from the past was less conditioned by outside forces, which in actuality led to it being in a more natural and healthy manner. You only think to get off, or you own more of the, how can I say this? We seek to get off more, not nowadays, not because we need to get off, more so because we can get off. And then on top of it, there's always going to be stimuli, and everyone's going to deal with that stimuli different. But now we just put ourselves in more in a position to enable this thing, which, without the understanding of the psychological ramifications that come from it, lead towards those particular things. So how does this relate back to sexual well-being? I'm letting you know, as a man in this day and age, I realize, like, hey, I can't be choking my chicken like that. And actually, you find more power in just refraining. And, the guys I work with and the videos y'all see me talk about, it's worked immensely in my journey. And it's just one of those things. Everyone could benefit from this. But if you got planets here, it's literally a part of the map or the plan on how to obtain your personal power, hold it, develop it, all of that. That's why, going back to the people who are kind of the suns, the Mars to an extent, the ones who are more sexually cautious or intimately cautious, right? That's for a reason. That's the ones who necessarily haven't been hijacked. They're kind of just navigating out here, trying to see what's what. Right action. Doing things that avoid. So those particular energies have an innate understanding of kind of what to avoid. But then Moon, Venus, Neptune, all of these, because of the karmic patterns, and that's where you got to really look at the whole chart. You can easily get caught up in the wrong scenario, but then be attached to it. It's the best I can say it. So, as you grow, you're just going to become more aware of, like, oh shit, like this actually isn't good for me. Like, I think I like it, but afterwards, I don't like how that goes. You know what I'm saying? And this is just a personal thing everyone has to be real with themselves about. And this could happen in any manner. It's the nature of life and duality. We're attracted to particular things, also repelled by it. But for some, it's meant for them to really consciously recognize that. Talking about Jupiter, I didn't really bring Jupiter into this mix. Jupiter is really going to open up your sexuality in the 8th house and 8th house experiences. Now, this is the Jupiter's blessings, right? So, these are the people who can really marry into wealth, become better off in marriage than they were in their early life, things of that nature. But at the same time, there are particular things that come with that. And I always try to hint at it. Sagittarius and Jupiter value freedom, y'all. And what you got to think in the different realms of life, how this manifests. That, like, Sagittarius could be out here wilding. So in the sense of Jupiter in the 8th house, it could bring a spouse that is reckless or does things in a marriage that ultimately forces a divorce. But then it's weird. Like, more times than not, that's really like your person. you know, in life, or yeah, those people will find them a way back to one another. Interesting stuff. But yeah, there's a lot more here. I really suggest you guys check out my book and take the journey and let everything go off. And, you know, stay abreast for the other stuff that I got coming too. But yeah, this is a little bit about, you know, planets in the 8th house, you know, sexual karma, energetic exchange,